We thank Mr. Khaled Khiari for his briefing. Since the beginning of this year, upon the request of some states, the Security Council has met to discuss the DPRK in various different formats for 5 terms now. Russia, as a responsible president of the Security Council, granted today's request from a number of countries to organize another meeting. However, in our national capacity, we firmly oppose Security Council meetings being churned out in this way for purely propaganda purposes and to exert pressure. Some members of the Council argue that this is due to serious concerns by recent events surrounding the Korean Peninsula. And the situation there is indeed extremely tense. However, a number of the countries that requested these discussions, first and foremost the United States, are direct participants in this latest escalation, which we are witnessing. We've not heard anything new today either. Once again, we have been presented with a one-sided interpretation of events in which the guilty parties are determined and the potential response to them must strictly comply with the position of Washington. Russia's position on this is well known. We oppose any military activity that jeopardizes the security of the Korean Peninsula and the countries of Northeast Asia. We have repeatedly said that the Security Council must consider the situation of the Korean Peninsula holistically. Only understanding the full picture of events in a particular region allows us to fulfill our responsibility to respond to various different threats to peace and security. Some states that today have said a great deal about the importance of implementing Security Council resolutions when it comes to the DPRK consistently forget that those resolutions also stipulate the pursuit of a political and diplomatic solution. And that doesn't mean declarative statements, but rather specific practical steps that would demonstrate real readiness to resume dialogue and to find mutually acceptable ways to improve or resolve the situation. We are firmly convinced that discussions in the Security Council must be results-oriented. In practice, we see something quite different: threatening exercises, rehearsing strikes on the DPRK, the introduction of new illegitimate unilateral sanctions, particularly ones that don't take into account the humanitarian situation in the DPRK, and politicized statements in the Security Council. Time and again, we underscored that the situation in the region continues to develop in this vicious circle. We believe that the sharp increase in military activity in Northeast Asia is born out of the irresponsible desire of Washington and its allies to intensify sanctions and forceful pressure on Pyongyang in the context of the so-called extended deterrence concept. This raises the reasonable question of specifically what aims Washington and its allies are pursuing. Together with the USA railroading its unilateral security doctrine in the Asia-Pacific region in general and its efforts to create new dividing lines in the region, the accelerated militarization of Northeast Asia is taking on a clearly destructive nature. Particularly telling is the creation of the USA-UK-Australia AUKUS partnership, the plans for which are a cause of serious concern, including in the context of compliance with the NPT. In conclusion, we would like to underscore that the monthly repetition of the same positions in the Security Council without any results could undermine its authority. Russia, together with China, has repeatedly proposed various targeted initiatives aimed at finding mutually acceptable solutions and resolving the situation on the Korean Peninsula, taking into account the interests of all parties. They remain on the table, and we remain ready to discuss them in detail. We are convinced that the majority of Council members are also interested in jointly developing truly forward-looking decisions. We call upon those few countries that are blocking this process to reconsider their approach and to at long last begin working on substance. However, that would require them to fundamentally change their approach, and unfortunately, we're not very hopeful of that. I resume my function as President of the Council. I greet at this meeting and give the floor to the Permanent Representative of the Republic of Korea.